We needed it more than you did. Carlos huffed from across the room as if he hadn't just emptied 2,160,000 pesos from my account. I am Elena Vargas, 34 years old, and I built my boutique from nothing. That money was my future. My dream. My everything. And my own brother-in-law stole it from me. He didn't even blink. He just smiled with pure arrogance. But he forgot one thing. I may be family, but I don't play fair. I looked him straight in the eyes and said, then it won't bother you what comes next. 2 hours later, the police burst through the door. Have you ever been betrayed by your own blood? Tell me in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you believe karma runs in the family. I grew up in Mexico City. I was the responsible daughter. My parents ran a modest hardware store, and while my younger sister Valeria spent her teenage years chasing parties and popularity, I saved every peso from my summer jobs. After university, I spent 3 years working incredibly hard in a retail chain before finally launching Vargas Designs, my own boutique focused on sustainable, locally made clothing. I quit my stable job with only 90,000 pesos saved and a heart full of ambition. The first 2 years nearly broke me. 18-hour days, dinners of instant soup, reinvesting every single cent. I lived modestly so my business could survive. Then tragedy struck. A drunk driver ran a red light and caused the accident that took our parents. The pain shattered me inside. I buried myself in work. Valeria dropped out of university and drifted through dead-end jobs. When the inheritance was settled, each of us received 1,350,000 pesos. I invested mine in my store. Valeria met Carlos in a casino and married him just months later. I disliked him from the very first day. A smooth talker with hair slicked back, an overly flashy watch, and a condescending tone. Your sister's little shop is cute. He mocked at their wedding. But real money is in investments. Carlos dominated every room, and Valeria changed. She became quieter, more submissive, always checking his reaction before speaking. She stopped calling me. When I saw her, she smiled with her mouth but never with her eyes. Then came the family gathering. The lake house had been in the family for generations. I had just secured a second location for my boutique, and the 2,160,000 pesos in my account were set aside for the expansion. 5 years of sweat, tears, and sacrifice were about to bloom. I had no idea that the people I called family were already plotting to take everything from me. I arrived at the lake house on a Friday afternoon with a light heart full of hope. The business was thriving. My line of credit with suppliers had just been approved. The second boutique was finally becoming real. My cousin Sophia greeted me at the dock with a smile, but her voice dropped low. Valeria and Carlos arrived earlier. Just be prepared. Through the screen door, I heard Carlos's voice before I saw him. Loud and boastful, something about a real estate deal that would double anyone's money. Valeria greeted me with a quick hug, calling me Elena like old times, but her eyes darted nervously toward Carlos. Here comes the businesswoman, he sneered, raising a glass of whiskey. Still selling enough dresses to keep the lights on? I smiled tightly. Actually, we're expanding. I just signed the contract for the downtown location in this economy. He scoffed. Later that night, I went up to my room to check some emails. I noticed it immediately. My laptop had been moved. The cable was plugged into a slightly different port. I froze. I opened it and checked the browser history, which had been cleared. But then the alert came. New login attempt failed from an unrecognized device. My stomach tightened. Someone had tried to access my account in the last hour while I was helping prepare dinner. I changed all my passwords, enabled two-factor authentication, and locked my devices away. But the hollow feeling in my stomach remained. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. My business partner Clara called in panic. Elena, the payment to the supplier bounced. It says insufficient funds. I opened the banking app with trembling fingers. Checking account at 0. Savings at 0. Business account at 0. Everything gone. 2,160,000 pesos. Vanished, transferred overnight to an unknown account. It wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a random hack. It was someone inside this house, someone who knew exactly what they were doing. And my sister's husband was in the kitchen drinking coffee as if nothing had happened. I must have entered the kitchen looking pale. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. My money is gone, I said in a hollow voice. All of it. Uncle Javier stood up. What do you mean it's gone? I held up my phone. More than 2,160,000 pesos drained overnight. Transfers to an account I don't recognize. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Sophia rushed to my side. Only 2 people stayed silent. Valeria staring at her coffee and Carlos with arms crossed and an unreadable face. Have you called the bank? Sophia whispered. Yes, on speaker right now. The executive's voice was calm. Confirmed, Miss Vargas. Several transfers occurred from 11:42 at night until 4:15 in the morning. From a recognized device at this location. Your password was entered correctly and security questions were answered correctly. That hit like a punch. It wasn't just fraud. It was intimate, premeditated betrayal. They had used my laptop, my network, my access. My eyes locked on Carlos. You were near my laptop yesterday. You entered my room. Valeria jumped to defend him immediately. You're accusing my husband. Carlos smiled slowly. Your sister is paranoid. Maybe your partner mismanaged the funds. Then show us your account statements, I confronted him. If you're so solvent. His smile faltered. That's not necessary. I don't have to prove anything to you. Oh. But you do. I stepped forward. Because if you didn't do it, you'd be shouting louder than anyone in this room. Valeria's hands were already shaking. She wouldn't look at me. Carlos gripped her waist like a leash and then said it coldly and arrogantly. We needed it more than you did. The room erupted. Uncle Javier shouted. Sofia gasped. Aunt Carmen began to cry. I didn't. I was already grabbing my bag. Then it won't bother you what comes next, I said in a voice of steel. As soon as I reached for my phone, Carlos lunged at me. You're not calling the police, he barked, grabbing for my wrist. Uncle Javier stepped between us firmly. Stay away from her, Carlos. Sofia pulled me behind her. Valeria shrank back, pale, not just scared but terrified. Valeria, I said softly. What is really going on? She opened her mouth, but Carlos interrupted. This ends here. Grab your things. We're leaving. You're not going anywhere until I get back every peso, I told him. Or I swear I'll have you stopped before you reach the garage. Carlos laughed. Good luck. That money has already been moved and hidden. You'll never find it. Then a loud bang shook the house. The front door burst open. Police. Nobody move. 2 uniformed officers entered. Followed by a woman in plain clothes, showing her badge. Elena Vargas? She asked. I nodded. I'm Detective Hernandez from the Mexico City Prosecutor's Office. We received a fraud alert linked to your accounts. Carlos went pale. This is a misunderstanding. She cut him off. We have evidence from your bank's cybersecurity team. Transfers, device identifiers, and your face, Mr. Herrera. He opened his mouth but nothing came out. I took out my phone. Last year, I installed a security program after an earlier attempt. This program takes photos during login attempts, records keystrokes, and even saves access history. I handed the phone to Hernandez. Here, I said. Clear images of Carlos using my laptop, with matching timestamps and IP address. Everything is there. Carlos's mask fell. You set me up. No. I said calmly. I protected myself. There's a difference. As the officers handcuffed him, he shouted at Valeria. You think you're safe? You're nothing without me. She stepped forward with a trembling but firm voice. To you, I was nothing. Without you, I can finally be myself again. Detective Hernandez looked at me. With this much evidence, you'll likely recover most of the stolen funds. And most importantly, he won't hurt anyone else. For the first time in days, I let out a breath. It wasn't over, but I had won the first battle. 1 month later, I stood in the soft morning light of my second boutique, open, thriving, and secure. Vargas Designs had survived. Not because I was lucky, but because I was prepared, because I trusted my instincts, and because I refused to let betrayal define me. The bank recovered 97% of the funds. The rest was covered by fraud protection, but the money was never the greatest victory. It was Valeria. She moved in with me, filed for divorce, and re-enrolled in university. The shadows under her eyes have begun to fade. She laughs again. She bakes again. She is healing. Last night she told me something while we chopped vegetables like we used to with Mom. You were brave for protecting what you built, Elena. I want to be brave enough to rebuild myself. And she is. Carlos pleaded guilty to fraud, breach of trust, identity theft, and unauthorized access to computer systems. He will be in prison for a long time. But his power ended the day Valeria stood up and said she was done living in fear. Last weekend we returned to the lake house, not for a gathering but for a fresh start. The whole family helped repaint, repair, and reclaim the space that almost broke us. And we made new rules. Real family protects. It doesn't manipulate. If you have ever had to cut off a toxic family member to protect what you love, I see you. Leave a comment if you ever said enough is enough. And if you're still gathering the courage, take some of mine. Because blood doesn't give anyone the right to break you. Thank you for listening to today's story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next story.